The first thing Ethan Cole heard when he stepped into the abandoned ranch house was a sound that should not have existed. A soft creak from deep inside the hallway. The wind outside was hardly strong enough to move a loose shutter, yet something had shifted in the dark. He froze where he stood, boots sinking slightly into dust so thick it looked like pale snow. He had expected loneliness here. Silence. Emptiness. Not this. Only a few hours earlier the ranch had become his. $1. A single crumpled bill placed into the shaking hand of old Mr. Caldera, the last living heir of a once mighty cattle family that had fallen apart under drought, debt, and heartbreak. No one wanted the land, not after 20 years of rot. The fields were cracked open like old bones. The fences leaned like soldiers who had lost their will to stand. The windmill stood stiff and lifeless, and the stories, disappearances, lights in the barn, shadows moving at night, kept even brave men away. But Ethan was not afraid of stories. He was a man who had already lost everything he was scared to lose. A failed construction investment in Houston had taken his savings, his home, his pride. All he wanted now was distance. Distance from failure. Distance from pity. Distance from the noise of a life that had stopped feeling like his own. When he saw the listing for the abandoned ranch, something in him stirred again. A feeling he thought he buried long ago, hope. Driving through the rusted gate for the first time felt like stepping backward in time. The ranch house sagged, but it still stood its ground against the wind. The barn doors were half-hanging. Tall golden weeds swallowed the old paths. The whole place looked forgotten by everyone, except the land itself. Inside the house, the air felt trapped. Dust covered everything. A broken chandelier lay like a fallen crown on the dining table. Plates still sat in the sink, as if their owner had walked out only yesterday. But beneath the smell of old wood and mold, Ethan sensed something else, something faint, something human. That was when he heard the creak. He moved slowly down the hallway, each step stirring years of settled dust. A narrow door at the end stood slightly open. He was sure it had been closed when he entered. Soft golden light spilled through the gap. That wasn't possible. There was no electricity here. His hand tightened around the doorknob. The metal felt warm. He pushed and stopped cold. A girl stood inside the room. She looked no older than 16, her dark hair uneven like it had been cut with a pocket knife. Her clothes were old but clean. She stood beside a small camping lantern resting on a wooden crate. Behind her were blankets, jars of preserved food, and books stacked neatly, far too neatly for someone who had just wandered in. This girl lived here. They stared at each other, neither one speaking, both unsure whether to run or stand still. "You're not supposed to be here," she said finally. Her voice didn't shake. "I bought the ranch," Ethan replied. "For $1, she said, almost accusing. He nodded. She didn't look angry. She didn't look surprised. She simply looked disappointed, as if a secret world she had protected had finally been exposed. "My grandfather," she whispered. "He sold it to you." Ethan blinked. Mr. Caldera's only son had died years ago. Everyone in town believed there was no family left. "You're his granddaughter?" She nodded, eyes fixed on the floor. "He thinks I left," she said quietly. "He thought I went to live with relatives." Ethan's breath caught. "You've been living here alone?" he asked. "For how long?" 3 years, she said. The words hit him like a hammer. "Piece by piece," she explained. Her name was Lily Caldera. When drought ruined the ranch and grief swallowed the family, her grandfather moved to a small apartment in town. She refused to leave. This was her home. Every tree, every fence, every sunrise over the east pasture. She hid from neighbors, from strangers, even from her own grandfather. He believed she would follow him eventually. She never did. "I know how to fix the pump," she said softly. "There's still good soil behind the barn. I've been growing crops there." Ethan looked around at her organized corner, the jars labeled in neat handwriting, the books worn from rereading, the small tools she had repaired herself. This wasn't a runaway. This was a survivor. "What do you want?" Lily asked. It was a question he had been avoiding for years. "I was planning to fix this place up," he said. "You'll sell it," she replied. "No," he said. "I'm tired of running from things." Thought maybe it was time to build something instead. She studied him for a long moment. Finally she said, "Then you're going to need help." For the first time since he arrived, the ranch did not feel abandoned. It felt alive. The first night Ethan and Lily shared, the old ranch house felt different. The shadows seemed less threatening. The silence felt less empty. Ethan patched broken boards while Lily moved through the hallways with a quiet confidence, pointing out which beams were weak and which ones still held strong. She knew every inch of the place the way a person knows their own heartbeat. The next morning the sun rose in a pale orange glow over the dry fields. Ethan walked out to the broken windmill while Lily followed with a toolbox she had pieced together from old parts. The windmill had been frozen for years, yet Lily spoke to it like an old friend she believed could be saved. She climbed halfway up before Ethan even had time to warn her to be careful. Her boots hooked onto the metal rung as she leaned forward to inspect the gears. "This part is rusted shut," she called down, "but the shaft can move. It isn't dead." "Kind of like this ranch," Ethan said. She looked down at him and gave the smallest smile he had seen on her face. Not wide, not confident, but real. They spent hours loosening parts, oiling the gears, tightening bolts Ethan didn't even know existed. Finally, when the afternoon wind swept across the fields, the old windmill shuddered, then groaned, then spun. Just once. But that single turn felt like a heartbeat returning. When water finally pushed up through the well pipe later that evening, Lily laughed. A bright sound that seemed to wake the land itself. Ethan stood still, absorbing it. He had not realized how silent his life had become until he heard her laugh. Over the next week they fell into a rhythm. Lily showed him where rainwater collected after storms. She pointed out the small patches of soil she had been nurturing behind the barn. She explained which parts of the fence cattle used to test first when they wandered. Ethan listened. He fixed. He rebuilt. The ranch creaked less with each passing day. But one thing weighed on him. Her grandfather. He knew the truth mattered. He knew the old man deserved to know his granddaughter was alive. And he knew Lily could not hide forever, no matter how much this land meant to her. So one evening, he picked up the old ranch phone. The line crackled with age as Mr. Caldera answered. "This is Ethan Cole," he said. "I bought your ranch." A long silence followed. Then Ethan breathed in slowly. "She's here, Lily. She's alive." The silence on the other end broke, but not with words. With a ragged sound that came from a heart too old for sudden hope. Ethan heard the phone clatter, heard someone catch their breath, heard a voice crack open from years of regret. "Please," Mr. Caldera whispered, "don't let her run." "She won't," Ethan said. The next day the old man came. He stepped out of a dusty car, shoulders bent from time and guilt. Lily stood on the porch, arms wrapped around her middle as if holding herself together. For a long moment, neither one moved. Then Lily whispered, "You left." Quote. Mr. Caldera's chin trembled. "I thought I lost you." "You told them I was gone," she said. "I couldn't bear the shame," he answered. "I thought the ranch dying was my fault. I thought you deserved a better place to grow." Lily didn't answer. She stepped forward, slowly, carefully. Then she wrapped her arms around him. Her grandfather cried into her hair while Ethan looked away, giving them a moment that was theirs, and theirs alone. When the two finally stepped apart, Mr. Caldera didn't ask for the ranch back. He didn't question Ethan's role here. He simply placed a worn hand on Ethan's shoulder and said, "Take care of it. Take care of her." The weight of those words settled into Ethan's chest like a responsibility he didn't fear. For the first time in years, a burden felt like purpose. As weeks passed, the ranch began to change. Grass returned in small patches. A neighbor traded 2 calves in exchange for help fixing a tractor. The barn doors were rehung. Fresh paint covered tired walls. The ranch did not become beautiful, but it became something else, determined. One evening, Ethan and Lily stood side by side near the rebuilt fence line. The sun melted into orange dust as shadows stretched across the field. "You didn't buy this place for $1, Lily said. Ethan smiled faintly. "What do you think it cost me?" She looked at the land, the fences, the windmill turning slow and steady in the breeze. "It cost you work. It cost you time. It cost you trust." He nodded. "Worth it?" Quote. The question hung between them. Lily didn't look at him. She watched the land she had guarded for 3 long years. Her voice came soft, steady. "It's home again." Ethan knew she wasn't talking about the ranch. He felt something warm settle deep inside him, something he hadn't expected to feel on this old piece of land. Belonging. But the West had a way of testing anyone who tried to rebuild a broken thing, and soon Ethan would learn that not everyone wanted the ranch to rise again. Not everyone believed Lily should have stayed, and not everyone would let the past rest quietly beneath the soil. The trouble began on a cold morning when Ethan found tire tracks in the dirt near the old corral, fresh ones, the kind that didn't belong to neighbors. The kind that circled the edge of the property like someone was scouting the place. He didn't tell Lily right away. She had just started smiling again. She had just begun to feel safe, but the tracks stayed on his mind like a quiet warning. By the 3rd morning they appeared again, this time deeper, closer to the barn. Lily noticed the tension in his jaw as they repaired a fence post. "What is it?" she asked. Ethan hesitated. "Someone's been driving around the ranch." Her eyes tightened. "People used to come here sometimes, teenagers from town. They'd dare each other to sneak in." "This doesn't feel like kids," Ethan said. "The tracks stop and linger." "Someone's watching," Lily whispered. He didn't say yes, but she already knew. That night, long after Lily fell asleep on the old couch, Ethan sat on the porch with a lantern burning by his side. The windmill creaked in the distance. The land felt different again, not alive, not hopeful. Alert. Near midnight, a truck rumbled somewhere beyond the outer fence line. It was faint but unmistakable. Ethan stood, hand resting on the porch rail. The engine cut off. Silence followed. For a long time, nothing moved. Then he saw a shadow walking along the fence. Slow, testing, looking. Ethan stepped down from the porch. "Can I help you?" he called out. The shadow froze. Then a man stepped into the weak moonlight. He wore a dusty coat, boots that had seen hard miles, and a smirk that didn't belong to a friendly visitor. "You must be the new owner," the man said. Ethan stayed still. "Who are you?" "Steve Harrow," the man replied. "I leased this land years ago. Ran cattle here till the drought hit." He lifted one shoulder, thought it was still empty. "It isn't empty," Ethan said. Harrow's eyes shifted toward the house. "So I heard." Ethan stepped closer. "This ranch isn't yours anymore." Harrow smiled, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "Everything out here is about who holds on longest. The Calderas let go. You think you're going to do better?" Ethan didn't blink. "Yes." Harrow stared at him for a long moment. Then he walked back to his truck. "We'll see." The next days came with new tension. Tools went missing. A section of fence was cut clean through. Footprints appeared near the back pasture. Lily moved through her days quieter, her confidence slipping back into caution. "Why does he care so much?" she asked while sorting jars in the pantry. "Some men don't like to lose," Ethan replied. "Some men don't like when other people stand up again." She nodded slowly. "He wants the ranch gone." "No," Ethan said. "He wants us gone." Late one evening, as the setting sun painted the sky in deep orange and violet, Ethan heard a shout from the barn. He ran. Lily stood near the open doors, breath tight. "He was inside," she said. "I saw him. He ran when he heard me." Ethan felt a fire rise inside his chest. "That's enough," he said. That night he drove to town and filed a report with the sheriff. Sheriff Mendez listened carefully, nodding slowly. "Harrow's trouble," he said. "Been trouble for years, but he's smart enough not to get caught." "I need him off my land," Ethan said. "You will," the sheriff replied. "Just keep your eyes open." When Ethan returned to the ranch, Lily waited on the steps. "I don't want to leave," she said. "Not again." "You're not leaving," Ethan answered. "This is your home." Something in her face softened, but the fear didn't fully disappear. 2 nights later, the confrontation came. Ethan woke to the smell of smoke. He bolted upright, grabbed his boots, and ran out the door. Flames licked the dry grass near the corral. A small fire, not dangerous yet, but meant as a warning, or an invitation. "Harrow!" Ethan shouted into the dark. "Come out!" A figure stepped from behind the old tractor. "You don't belong here," Harrow said. Ethan stood his ground. "Neither do you." Harrow moved closer, anger twisting across his face. "This land was mine before it was yours. You think $1 made you a rancher? You think you can fix what's already dead?" Ethan didn't flinch. "It wasn't dead. She kept it alive." Harrow froze. "She?" he repeated. Ethan nodded once. "Lily." The look in Harrow's eyes shifted. Realization, shock, something darker. "She was supposed to be gone," he muttered. Caldera said. "She stayed." Ethan cut in. "She survived." Harrow stared at the small fire, then at Ethan. "You can't save this place," he said. Ethan stepped forward. "I already did." Behind them, a truck engine roared. Sheriff Mendez's headlights swept across the yard. "Harrow!" the sheriff barked. "Step away!" Harrow lifted his hands, but his eyes never left Ethan. "This isn't over," he growled. "Yes," the sheriff said as he cuffed him. "It is." When the sheriff's truck finally pulled away, Ethan turned to find Lily standing in the doorway, wrapped in a blanket, eyes shining with fear and something else. "You protected it," she whispered. Ethan shook his head. "We protected it." She stepped toward him. "Ethan, why did you stay? You could have left any time." He looked out over the ranch, the windmill turning slow in the night breeze, the house glowing softly behind her, the land that had been broken but not defeated. "I think I finally found something worth staying for," he said.